The schedule today, I'm just going to go through this quickly so I can pass it over to Michael because he doesn't have too much time. I'll probably jump back, but essentially we're going to be taking a look at how we can host websites on the Raspberry Pi, and then how we can integrate our fidget sensors with that. So that's kind of the idea for today. This is a more advanced webinar compared to what we've been doing in the past. So if you're just getting started with fidgets, this is something that you may want to tackle maybe after you've been a little bit more comfortable with it. But at least it will show you how you can progress to this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pass it over to Michael. So basically, Michael is a teacher at Hampton High School. So we can see here, they have a greenhouse at their school, and they're essentially, right now, they're going to be integrating fidgets to monitor the greenhouse. They're creating a web page, and they're doing some really cool stuff. So I'm just going to pass it over to Michael.
Okay, great. So as Lucas said, I'm a physics, math, and computer science teacher over at Hampton High School. And the environmental program at our school, they built this wonderful greenhouse. And it was kind of a tough thing for them to do to get started. But once they got it done, I said to myself, why can't we do things automated, right? So what we've done is we've teamed up with Lucas, and this is our greenhouse. You can see a few, pictures and so on and so forth. So what we've done is we've been taking the fidgets. We have a barometric pressure water pump system, the automated water pump system for our plants, a temperature sensor. We have a light sensor for different plants. We have the humidity sensor, and we actually have an actuator that we're using for temperature control, because what was happening is the teacher would have to drive from home, go to the greenhouse if the greenhouse temperature was too hot, open all the doors, and so on and so forth. So I said, we've got a better way of doing this. And I said, we can integrate all this automated technology that we have. And I've been looking at Arduinos, and I've been looking at the bits, the micro bits as well. But I found Lucas. I don't know how I found Lucas, but anyways, it was a teacher from another school. They said, "Oh, here we have all this stuff. Do you want to? Do you want?" I said, "Sure." And then I found out a webinar with Lucas, and by far none, all their equipment is so easy to use and plug and play that I said, "Okay, we're going to use it to automate everything that we need inside the greenhouse." And so our environmental teacher can sit at home and monitor the entire greenhouse without leaving their home. And she's like, "You can do that kind of stuff for me?" I'm like, "Yeah, we can do that stuff." So we are at the point where we got everything working inside our classroom. This is our web page. We've included, the fidgets. We don't have our picture of our computer science team. This is our home, but in our live view tab, there's nothing there yet. We have some pretty funny science kids putting some Russian stuff on there, but anyways. So in our live view, what we've done is we've integrated all these sensors through the Raspberry Pi. So I forget how many we have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've integrated all these 6 components, programming, coding, and so on and so forth, through the Raspberry Pi, through our network. And what it does is, Lucas will go through it. It completely writes everything live, using the Raspberry Pi, and the teacher views it on the live screen there, with all the live data that's coming in, and they don't have to do anything. They don't have to drive, to the greenhouse to open doors, because what we've done is we've programmed the actuator. So when the temperature increases above whatever she needs it to be, we've actually included the actuator to open up a window and close it when the temperature falls within the proper range. So we've really got everything working in classroom. I wish I had the actual graphs to show you, but I'm pretty sure Lucas will do that. But if I were to make a suggestion or anything, I would not hesitate to use these products because they're so easy to use. They're just plug and play. The code is readily available. And we as a class, my computer science class, just changed 1 or 2 or 3 lines of code to make it work with the Raspberry Pi. And it is absolutely amazing.
And if anyone has questions about Michael's setup, you can email me and then I can forward them to Michael because I'm sure he would be happy to help you out too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Appreciate that.
Okay.
So what we're going to be doing today, we're going to do a quick overview of everything we're going to be tackling today. And basically what that is setting up a web server, displaying data on that website. And then we're going to kind of see if we can get to graphing on the website. If not, we may make a kind of continuation of this webinar. So just to kind of do the overview, this is what I was talking about previously. So when you are talking about websites with the Raspberry Pi, or really any website, you're going to start with a web server. So again, might sound kind of scary if you're not really familiar with web development, but it's actually quite simple. We're going to be talking about visiting the website. So just a really brief touch on IP addresses. Again, it's very simple. We're just going to make sure that everybody knows what to do. We'll talk about modifying the website, and then we're going to be talking about how to actually log data and display that on the website. So here's an example of a very basic website that is displaying data, displaying a graph, and is accessible on your kind of local network. So this is the goal for today. So everything that we're going to be talking about today is actually available on our website. So we have some new projects that we just posted before this webinar. If we go to the Learn and to the projects down here, so Learn projects, you're going to see some new projects here. So these two right here, you're going to see make a website and display data on the website. Everything we're going to be talking about today is kind of covered in these two projects. We're just going to go through them a little bit so that everybody can get a better idea of how to actually do this themselves. So the first thing that we're going to have to do is set up our web server. That's what we kind of mentioned before. So we're going to set up our web server on our Raspberry Pi. We're going to find the local IP address and then do some ownership stuff. So just to kind of explain my setup, it looks a little bit messy, but what we have is we have a Raspberry Pi right here. So this is what you see on this screen right here. And basically what it has attached to it is this getting started kit. So I'm going to be accessing the Pi through, this is basically the Pi through VNC. So I just have like a remote connection to the desktop. So we're going to be working right from my Pi from here, and we're just going to be going through what you need to get set up. So the first thing that you have to do is set up your web server. That's what we said before. So this is a really simple thing to do. I'm just going to pull this up so we all can kind of follow along. So this is that project that I was mentioning before. This is kind of part 1, making a website. So if we scroll down, we can see that, hey, this is how you set up your web server. And essentially all you're doing is you're doing sudo apt install Apache 2, and then -y just to say yes to everything. So this is all you need to do to set up your web server. Mine's already set up, but I think if I hit enter, it'll probably just say it's already set up here. So that's literally all you have to do to get your web server set up. So what that actually does is it creates a folder on your Raspberry Pi. So if we go to var, so var www html, this is basically your main file that you're going to see when you navigate to your website. So the next thing that you have to do is figure out your IP address so that you can actually visit the website. So what I can do, I'm going to go to the web browser here. So if I'm on my Raspberry Pi, I'm just going to navigate to localhost. So that will bring me to my own kind of IP address. So if I press enter there, we can see our default web page. So this is the web page that basically, if we looked inside this file here, if we edited this with our little text editor here, this is basically that file. So they just give you a default file. And then the idea is that, okay, now you have this default web page, you can edit it and kind of do what you want with it. If you were to access this, if you wanted to access this from a different computer on the same network, I have to look for my IP address on here. So all I'm going to do, and again, this is all in that project that we had earlier, I'm just going to type in this command here, which is hostname -i. So hostname -i like that. And basically that will, let me see if I can, There we go. I'll zoom in a little bit for everybody. That will give me my IP address of the machine I'm on. So that is this right here, 192.168.2.199. So if I wanted to access that from a different computer, so for example, I'm now on my main machine here, I can access it through that, and I see the same web page. So that is the very first step in getting a website up on your Raspberry Pi. It's installing the web server like we just did, and then it's trying to figure out what your IP address is. So basically, what you're going to want to do is when you have this index.html file generated, you're going to want to edit it and put your own content in there. So by default, you're not going to have access to, like, if I try to edit this file, it would say, hey, like, you don't have permission because you're not root. So again, just a little simple command here. So if we scroll down here, we can see if we want to modify our web page, what we have to do is we just have to change the ownership here so that we can actually modify that file. So it's a simple little command in the terminal that's saying sudo change ownership. I want, when you log into the Raspberry Pi, the user UR is Pi basically. So we're saying Pi, and then we're saying, hey, we want access to that whole var folders, www.html, just like that. And then we're changing the ownership there so that we can actually edit that file. So that's it. And then basically what we can do now is, if we just go back to that project, we can replace the contents of index.html with this little short kind of HTML file here. So I'm just going to do that. I copied that. Actually, I'm going to have to copy that. Let's go through here. I'm just going to open that project on the Pi. So if we scroll down, here's our website code. So I'm just going to copy that. And then I'm going to edit this file. I'm just going to select everything because I just want to get rid of everything. I'm going to paste, and then I'm just going to save it. So right when I save that file, I can go back up here. I can type in that IP address that we had earlier, like that. And then boom, I can see my web page has now changed. So basically, what we put in here was just a title, which is Phidgets. So that's what shows up right there. We have the Phidgets data title, which is right here. And then we have this empty header that has an ID of data label. So basically right now we just have this static web page that is, basically not doing anything because it's not connected to anything. So it's just serving this page here. So what we did, we installed the web server, we found our IP address, we changed the ownership of that file, and we were able to modify the website. And the next step here is to actually display data on the website. So what we want to do in order to, or what we need to accomplish here is we need to basically take data from this getting started kit here. So I'm going to be using the humidity fidget on top of the getting started kit. And I want to pass temperature data to my website. So we're going to have to do that. We're going to have to, in order to do that, there's kind of two primary ways you can do that. One way, which is pretty simple, is just to log data from your sensor to a file and then access that file through your website. And the other way you could do that was Phidgets does have a JavaScript API. So if you are an advanced user and you kind of understand what that means, you could email me after and I can give you more information about that. But I think for most users, just logging to a file is going to be like kind of the nicest and most appropriate way to do this. So in order to do that, we have to create a Python script that's actually logging data to a file. And then we have to modify our website to actually read that data and display it. So what we have, again, is we have these links down here. So first we have a project, this project here, which is the continuation of the first project. So this is basically part 2 of the 2 projects. And this is what I would definitely recommend checking out later on. Again, all the information's here, so you don't have to worry too much. And this will tell you everything you need to know. So for example, we have the code here for our script. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to write a Python script that's taking data from our temperature sensor and logging it to a file. So that's the first thing we're going to do. And I'm going to go back to my Pi here, and I'm just going to click on this link, and I'm going to copy that that Python file so that we have that code. So again, we're going to scroll down. I'm going to copy this Python file here, and then what I'm going to do is open up Thonny. And I'm going to paste that code in just like that. And hopefully that's big enough for everybody to see. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly, let's see if I can, I'm going to quickly just save this file. So I'm going to save this on my desktop as temperature.py, just like that. And then I'm just going to quickly go through this file and describe what's actually happening in it. So this is the file that was available in the project. And again, the idea is that, hey, we want to take data from the temperature sensor. We want to log it to a file on the Raspberry Pi, and then we want to read that file from our website. So basically what we're doing here, if you've gone through the Getting Started kit, this will be familiar to you. So we're doing our imports that we normally do. So we're importing the temperature sensor class because we want to read temperature. And we're importing the digital output class because we're going to be using the red LED. So again, just like we've seen before in the Getting Started kit, we are creating the objects here. We are addressing them here. So again, the status LED is on hub port 1, and it's a hub port device. And then we're opening the devices. So just like we've seen in every other project, then we're going to jump down here and we have this while loop. So in this while loop, we have code that talks about basically is logging data to a file. So the other, just to jump back quickly, so the other link that we had down here in this presentation was a project link for logging sensor data to a file. So if you're not familiar with how to do this, that is what I would definitely recommend checking out. It just describes what we're actually doing here, and it describes why we're using a CSV and all of that stuff. But essentially, we're opening our Phidgets. We're writing data, and as you can see here, hopefully everybody can kind of see this. We're writing data to var www HTML. So again, that's where our website page lives, and we're creating a file called data.csv. So, and then what we're doing is we're just blinking the LED. So the idea is that, hey, we know this thing's running. So if I run this code here, so we can see there that my LED is blinking now. Hopefully we can all see that. So basically what's happening now is let's see. So if we just increase the size of this again, I should be writing a file called data.csv to var www HTML. So if we open that in our file browser here, var www HTML, we can see this data file here. So if I open this data file, we can see that it's just logging temperature like that. So basically now what we have is we have this data file that has a bunch of data, temperature data streaming into it. So the next step, if we take a look at our project, so I'm just going to have to reopen that on here, and then I'll just pull it up on here. So the next step after we've written that file and it's writing data is now we have to modify our website to actually use that data. So what we have to do is, I'm just going to go back to that project. Let's see, sure, I'll go to this page. And I'm going to take the HTML kind of and JavaScript code from there, and I'm going to kind of overwrite my current file so that it is now actively taking data from that. So if we scroll down, we can see, oh, this is the old one, sorry. So we'll go to the display data on your website. So if we scroll down here to the bottom, we can see our new kind of code for our website. So I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to go into my index file. I'm going to edit it, and I'm just going to overwrite it with the new page. So then if I open a browser and I navigate to that IP address, boom, now I'm seeing the latest data from that temperature sensor. So now basically what I have is I have a browser that's available on my local network. And if I kind of refresh this, I should be getting, we can see there, I get kind of updated data from my temperature sensor. So pretty cool. I'm going to quickly just go through the code that we put in there so that we can kind of understand what's happening. Basically what we're doing is we have this same kind of look as before. So we have our little title, which is Phidgets. But what's changed now is we have this script section here. So if you are teaching JavaScript or you're teaching HTML and JavaScript, this will be familiar. But basically all we've done is we've basically added a script that will run on load. So whenever the web page loads, this connect Phidgets script will run. And basically all it's doing is it's saying, hey, there should be a file on the web server called data.csv. So again, that's the file that we had created. And then of course, you would replace this with your own IP address when you were creating this project. And basically all it's doing is it's taking that data, it's splitting it up because basically it's a CSV. So it's splitting all that data up and it's just, it's putting the most recent value into that label. So we can see down here that the label here, the H2, has an ID of data label. So we're just saying, hey, get that data label and replace it with the last element of the array that we had. So that's why, again, that we can kind of see, if we navigate to that page, we can see here that that's what's happening. So we have the latest one, and actually you can open up, again, this is potentially advanced depending on, I'm sure if you're teaching JavaScript and HTML, you're using the developer console. But essentially, if it'll let me open that, there we go. All that's happening is we can see this code here. If I refresh the page, that's running. It has an array with 300 elements, and it's taking the last one and just putting it on the page. So now the idea is kind of, you have this web page. So if we open this up again, let's see. So you have this web page. It's you created your web server, you changed the permissions, you created a Python script that's kind of running in the background, and then you're now displaying that data on your website. We do appreciate everybody stopping by. Here's our links here. If you have any questions, please stay up to date with the webinars coming out, and we'll be happy to see you there as well. So thank you all.